Kenny, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Doing well, guys. How you doing?
Good. Considering, we're hanging in as best we can. Look, Ken, I'm not going to lie. I went from a very high to kind of a low, and your Twitter account has been the reason over the last 3 hours or so. News that the owners have formulated their plan to pitch to the players, and then I see a tweet from one Ken Rosenthal, who we're speaking to right now, saying, yeah, Tony Clark, he's not digging it. What should I be feeling right now, Ken, based on your reporting? I'm confused. I'm conflicted.
What's the latest?
Well, obviously, let's just look at the facts first. The owners have approved a plan to present to the union. That plan includes a revenue sharing split, 50-50, for this season only. And the players' side says that when you do that, have a set percentage of revenue determining salaries, that is effectively a salary cap. The Baseball Players Union historically has been strongly opposed to a salary cap, has never approved a salary cap, and that is where we are. Now, what kind of amazes me, and I don't want to implicate you, Tim and Sid, but the emotions that go on with these tweets and everything that's reported, it's a negotiation, folks. Negotiations go up, they go down, and these negotiations haven't even started yet. So I anticipate that in the days ahead, there are going to be similar kinds of things happening, ups and downs. The real issue to me is even if they get an agreement here, how is this all going to play out? And what happens if a player or a coach or a manager or an umpire gets sick? And how do they have the health and safety protected as much as they can? And what happens if games are canceled? All these different elements logistically that are going to be so difficult for the sport to have anything resembling a normal season. So you've got to get from point A to point B. That's going to be a struggle, as we saw today. But at the same time, even if you get from point A to point B, it's not over. And it's going to be a really difficult thing for baseball to get on the field and stay on the field. And that is what everyone wants to see. And ultimately, I do believe, despite all this noise, that is what we're going to see. It's just going to take an effort.
Sid and I, off the top of the show, and Ken Rosenthal, who did some wonderful reporting, made a lot of news over the weekend, along with Ellen Drellick of The Athletic. And Ken, our argument off the top of the show was kind of centered around, would the players get in the way of this? And my point was, we're going to have this negotiation, whether we like it or not, and it's going to be a tough negotiation. Before we walk down that road, was there anything else in today's conference call with the owners that changed significantly from what you heard over the weekend to what was put forward to the players?
No, not dramatically.
Okay.
I don't know that there was anything that surprising in there. Basically, what I reported Saturday is the plan to have as many teams in home parks as possible, to have geographic schedule where you play your own division and the comparable division geographically in the other league, AL East, NL East, etc. And those things are the essence of it. But I wrote another story that came out this morning, talking to players about underlying health concerns, who have underlying health concerns, and their desire to play, but their understandable fears and anxiety that comes with this. And this, for the players, is obviously a huge issue, and it does tie into pay in their mind, because in their mind, they're taking a risk by playing. I don't know if there's any question about that. They're taking a risk. And to take that risk, you've already had them agree to prorate their salaries once, which all of us would probably look at and say that's reasonable. If you play half a season, you get half your pay. But now to ask them to take a further reduction because the games will be played without fans while they're taking the risk, that is part of what rubs them wrong here. And that's not even talking about the issue of making sure they're safe in the first place.
Ken Rosenthal, The Athletic, here on Tim and Sid. Again, if you're just tuning us in, Major League owners have finalized the plan that they are going to propose to the players in terms of what a return for baseball would look like. Tomorrow, the meeting's in earnest. There's been conversation the whole time, according to Ken's reporting. But tomorrow, in earnest, it does begin. Ken, the one troubling thing I'm hearing a lot from people on the periphery is the players are going to have to see the books here. If it's this dire, if the situation is that bad for ownership, and it's completely plausible, you don't have to see the books to know things might be bad. But do you think this is an opportunity for the players? And I hate to phrase it this way, but do you think this is an opportunity to get some things done on their end that they haven't been able to do ever?
I don't, but it's a good question. And the reason I don't believe that is because this is going to be a difficult enough negotiation without worrying about the future. Now, when you ask about seeing the books and having that be the basis of this, basically the players are saying, or will say, in my opinion, hey, if you want us to agree to revenue sharing, show us why. Show us what's going on. And they have access to some of the financial records, but not all of MLB. They don't see everything. So that is something that, yes, they're going to ask for. And really what you're driving at here is this distrust that exists between the sides. What you ideally want right now is a partnership and two sides moving quietly forward amidst the pandemic that is affecting millions and millions of people economically, and not take their dirty laundry out to the public. Now, of course, I'm part of reporting that dirty laundry. I get it. But that reporting reflects the disputes that are going on and the tensions that exist. So that is what should be happening. A quiet negotiation, two sides saying, okay, let's make the best of a bad situation, because it is a bad situation for the sport. How are we going to do that? And yet what we're seeing are all those other tensions coming to the surface.
So Ken, and I get this. I get this is the start of the negotiation, which I think you pointed out. So that's a part of this equation, and a huge part of this equation, that we're going to have a negotiation. It's going one side or the other. But do you believe that if the players ask to see the books, this would help or hinder? Because the other part of that equation is if the owners are really worried about the players seeing the books, then they can just say, well, screw that. Let's find another way to get them in and play this season.
That's a fair point. And some people I talked to today said, this doesn't seem right. The owners know, the league knows, the players are never going to go for this revenue sharing plan. This must be part of some other strategy that they're going to come out with later, in which they pivot to some other plan and ask the players to accept that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do believe that that person, or actually multiple people, are correct in thinking that, yes, the union was never going to accept this, and yes, there might be some ulterior thing going on. I don't know what that is. Right. But seeing the books, it's something they've long wanted, and it's something the owners have never consented to, and I don't expect them to consent to it now either.
Right.
Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic here on Tim and Sid. There's a lot here, Ken, and obviously, like we've said numerous times, it's a negotiation, so who knows? But the DH implementation across the board, if that's finalized, I'm curious, based on what you're hearing, how many National League teams kind of held their nose and took their medicine on that?
Honestly, guys, I've not focused on that particular element. It's like the least of it in terms of contentiousness and all of that. It's obviously important, and it's of probably greater interest to most fans than some of the stuff we're talking about. But in this circumstance, when you're going to be playing interleague quite a bit, because of course the two divisions will line up with each other from each league, I don't know that the NL owners and clubs really had to hold their noses. It's a one-time thing.
Okay.
And they're going to try some other things, I would imagine, too. And this season, it comes with an asterisk, assuming it gets played. It's a different season. It's not a season that you can look at it like any other season. So these kinds of issues, whether it's rescheduling and inequity in scheduling and DH or 12-inning rule where the runner is on second base, it's all for 1 year.
Right.
It's not going to change the landscape of the sport forever. Though if some of these ideas prove to be kind of good, it might, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, this season is just it's an anomaly. It's not going to be normal.
Ken Rosenthal, MLB Network, The Athletic, MLB on Fox. Last one, we here in Canada, at least from me, we here in Canada understand that the Blue Jays are the only international team and that the borders remain closed. How much has that come up in the conversation to get things done? What you do with teams in tough spots like New York and tough spots in Toronto for obviously very different reasons?
It has come up. And the Toronto situation is something the league is well aware of and has to be. With the border restrictions, with the rule that any visitor to Canada must be quarantined for 14 days. Right now, if you started spring training and wanted to hold it in Skydome, you couldn't do it. Which is not to say that you can't play games. I'm sorry, Rogers Center, I should say. In Rogers Center.
We understand.
Starting in early July. And it's not a situation where that is impossible. But we're going to have to wait and see if things ease in Canada and if the restrictions open up. If not, the Blue Jays, like the Yankees or like any other club in that kind of situation, the Mets, any team that's in a hot spot, they might have to open somewhere else. Now, Dunedin would be one possibility. That's their spring home. I guess you could also do it in a major league stadium somewhere, right? And have them alternate with the team that's playing there, because in a major league stadium, you have more cameras. It's better to televise from. There are all kinds of ways you can go. And that's something that on a case-by-case basis, they're just going to have to deal with. We're talking right now about Toronto because of the unique circumstances. New York, because, of course, it's been hit the hardest. California, the government in that state has been pretty adamant about not playing until they're ready. But by the time we play, if we play, those states in Canada might be open. Other states might be having problems, or perhaps all of these places are having problems. We don't even know, or perhaps they're all clear. More likely it's not that, but this is why they're going to have to be really flexible in how they approach this. And when I say they, I mean the league and also each team, because it's really a play-by-ear situation.
Ken Rosenthal from The Athletic. Ken, the reporting over the last 48, 72 hours, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And considering we all are ready for baseball, keep it coming and only tweet the good news. If you have bad news, do not tweet.
All right, that's right. I'm going to keep Tim and Sid's mood swings in mind next time I report anything.
I know it's right at the top of your priority list, Kenny.
Yeah.
Right at the top of your priority list. Thank you very much. Thank you.
See you guys. Thank you.